Aperture, your time has come. It is time to get this reaction underway. It had to be done. It had to get done. It's that simple. There's no other way around it. I had to react. I'm just kidding, man. I just saw this on my feed. I didn't need to react. But we got Aperture, okay? Storytelling, a double-edged sword. He's got the humanity hashtag right here, so you know that's always interesting. And we're gonna learn about storytelling. I know storytelling is a very important aspect in a lot of things, you know, in business and whatever. Whenever you're trying to get a point across, people remember your stuff much more vividly when you're telling a story. Instead of just like, you know, giving them facts. There's nothing but like shooting a bunch of statistics, stuff like that. As much as people love, you know, facts because it makes them feel real logical and it makes them feel intelligent and it makes them feel like they're making a genuine free will decision based on facts and evidence, people mostly just kind of they pay much more attention to a story. It's much more interesting, much more entertaining, and it sticks with you a lot more, right? There's studies on it, so let's see, what is the double-edged sword of storytelling? Let's learn this with me, you know, let's learn this together. Let's go.
There was once a village decimated by
I have no
war.
idea where he's gonna go with this. I have no idea. I don't know much about storytelling. Don't know much about like literature-ish. I don't think this really about literature necessarily, but let's go.
A war its people didn't ask for.
Never do the people
After 4
really
years,
ask for it.
the killings ended, but the devastation had only just begun.
World War One?
Those who survived were left standing on the streets for hours, waiting for their only chance at a meal.
Damn.
In one of those lines scattered around the village was a woman, holding her son against her chest as he cried silently from the pain of his hunger. The war had taken her father, her brothers, and her husband, leaving her alone in a world she no longer recognized. All she could do was to keep her son safe, and even that became more impossible by the day. As hours passed and the sun began to set, someone announced that the food had run out. The line quickly became a rabid mob of starving, prideful people, shouting and demanding food for their families.
What do you think that does when there's actually like a war and obviously the men have to stay? I heard that's something that they did out in Ukraine. Kind of not necessarily like directly what I'm going to talk about, but something that I found interesting is that in Ukraine, when people tried leaving, there was some transgender people that tried leaving Ukraine at the time that shit started popping off. And they literally got told, no, you're a man and you're going to stay here and fight. Go pick up a fucking rifle. And it's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know how they did it with the opposite though. Like saying, what about the women who were pretending to be a man? Would they just stay? Would they just stay? Would they let them in? They're like, fuck it, you want to be a man? Let's go. And then the guy who tried going to a woman, or woman, I should say. Fuck, gotta be politically correct. You know, that shit is crazy. What does it do when you kill off the entire, like you're killing off a lot of men in war? What is that doing to a lot of kids? Because you got to realize the people that do stay behind are like little boys. You know, you got little boys, little girls, and just their moms. You know, like all the men in the family are probably gonna die. You know, not all of them. They're not necessarily all probably gonna die, but there's a chance that a lot of them might die. You know, there's a chance the dad might die, brothers die, all types of family members die, and that's something that's like, I wonder the real effects of that. And are we ever have we ever seen the real effects of that, right? Like people who grow up without a father. I wonder if there's like a generation of people that have a tendency to have grown up without a father, maybe somewhere, someplace, because of a war that went on. That's something I'm very interested in finding out.
Fighting over what few scraps they could get their hands on.
Music's a little loud. I should probably turn it down.
But the anger only
Whenever
masked
it's
the
paused.
cause of their real pain. They had failed their families. This humiliation, this shame boiled over into violence around her. She watched her son cry, but there was nothing for her to do but push through the writhing mass. Fists landed on her back, her ribs, her skull.
Damn.
Ringing filled her ears, and the sharp sting of teeth through flesh filled her mouth with what can only be described as the bitter taste of dread. She collapsed to the ground, still clutching her son to her chest. He's no longer crying. Too
Dad?
shaken to check for his breath as the fight continued above her, a silent sob escaped her lips. "This is not you," a voice called, strong enough to pierce through chaos like a wildfire burning on a stormy night. "This is not us. We're better than what they have forced us to become. They want us to fight each other. When it's them, we should be fighting.
Who's them?
They are the enemy,
Who's they?
and they must be destroyed.
Who's they?
What did this story make you feel? Sadness, anger, fear? Why do you feel that way? This isn't your story. These aren't your problems or your emotions. This is fiction.
Maybe the people in close-knit communities or ancestors who were very tight, close together, they used to tell each other stories. Because obviously there's no cameras around. You can't just go up to, Susan over there by the campfire and then show her like a video of your very your very advanced Android phone with the 48 megapixel camera. You don't have that. So you kind of just have stories, and motherfuckers are gonna lie, but motherfuckers gotta work together and get in a group. So there might be dick riding, there might be people that are just like you obviously have to have empathy. So I think maybe something that might develop from that is really listening to people's stories, because it's their life story. That's them telling you their story, because there's nothing else that they can really show you. I mean, they weren't even really writing in those times, so all they can really do is vocal. It's very oral, all that they could do. So all they could do is tell stories. Maybe my guess is, I actually don't know, I haven't heard too much about it, but my scientific guess would have to be that it's that. It's like empathy and... Damn, this shit is kind of loud. Hold on.
Set in a time you...
Hold on. This shit's kind of loud. Let me go right here, just for a quick second. Okay, that's better. Why was it at 100?
don't know. About a woman and a child you've never met, in a situation you most likely haven't experienced yourself. So, why then do you feel so strongly for them? Why do you empathize?
Empathy, yes.
Why did you sense her pain, her suffering, her hunger?
Because you wanted to
Recall
prove
the
to
last
the person
line for
that
a
told
moment.
it.
The voice that called out in the
You wanted
darkness.
to...
Did it give you a
connect
feeling
to
of
them.
relief, of hope, a sense that maybe someone could help them? Did you feel like part of the we and angry at the them? Again, I ask why. You know nothing about the man speaking, what his values are, or who he means by we and they. He could be a freedom fighter raging against an oppressive, exploitive ruling class, or maybe he was the man with the brown shirt who offered salvation to the German people. A man whom you just supported because of the narrative I made about his life. This is the power of a story. It can transform even the most villainous of men into heroes, and turn stories of war into that of liberation. Humans are incredible at pattern recognition, and that is one of the reasons stories are so powerful. We're able to make connections between the words and ourselves, between its world and ours. We become emotionally engaged with the
Why do you
character.
think? Is it because we wanted stimulation, and maybe our best form of entertainment that we had back then was, since we didn't have theaters, plays and stories being told? Maybe that's why. We wanted to become really stimulated, so we like entrenched ourselves into the story. We really got ingrained in it and really focused on it and really like dug ourselves in, and just felt it. That, on top of empathy and wanting other people to feel like we're one of them and we feel them. Wanting to feel like we're a close connection, close-knit community. So it's like you tell your story, it might be sad, I'm gonna cry for you. Not on some Kim Jong-un is forcing me to cry over the fact that his father died or whatever, right? But it's like, I'm crying to show you that we care. We have empathy around here. That's what I think. Those are my two things. One, we like to be entertained. And two, empathy for the group. Those are my theories. Don't quote me on that.
Characters, and it's almost like we're there, experiencing it alongside them. This is what psychologist R.J. Gehrig defined as narrative transportation. Using mirror neurons, our brain takes experiences and emotions we've had and maps them onto the experience of the character, so we feel for these people, even when we haven't been in the exact
Mirror
same situation.
neurons?
Not everyone knows the pain of starvation or the oppressive nature of a post-war society, but everyone knows the feeling of not being able to get something you need. Not everyone fears for the death of their child, but everyone knows the pain of losing someone forever. A study by Princeton professor of psychology and neuroscience Uri Hassan showed the electromagnetic signals of the narrator actually sync to the brain of the listener.
That's bullshit.
This,
I don't believe
the
that.
neurochemical expression of empathy, is why we connect so tightly to stories,
I told
why
you.
they spur us into action, even
I
when it might not
told you.
directly affect us. All of this begs the question, what exactly is a story, and why did we start telling them in the first place?
Technically, everything I just said, I swear I got
To
it.
the nomadic bands of humans in the untamed wilds from time immemorial, stories had practical social use. Professor Paul J. Zak discovered that compelling narratives cause the release of oxytocin, which acts as a motivator, a trust builder, and promotes cooperation between people, essential things needed for
that
any
the love hormone?
civilization to survive. These fables also taught social values, lessons of survival, spiritual beliefs, and historical truths. Before written records were kept, stories preserved history.
Told you.
If you've been wondering whether the words story and history have anything to do with each other, well, they do. In fact, those two words meant the same thing until around the 16th century, and this non-distinction is not only present in the English language. Mo'olelo is the native Hawaiian word for story, but it also means history, legend, or tradition. It comes from two words, mo'o, meaning succession, and olelo, meaning language or speaking. So, in its most basic sense, they both mean succession of speaking, since all stories were told before humans started writing. These legends and myths that propped up in ancient culture throughout time were intertwined and inspired by historical fact and developed by the people who told them, adapting to the needs and goals of a culture over time. These
What are the
stories connected the
7 times
teller
I've seen
and the
this
listener
clip?
to a larger sense of humanity, allowing them to imagine
Is
a
this like on like a website somewhere where I can just get like free clips? Why do I always see these clips? I don't know if it's just the aperture that uses them, but I swear I've seen this clip like 4 times off of like different videos. Everybody uses the same. Everybody just has the same tribe royalty-free video use. Can't find any more. There's only one set of tribe videos. It's good though. I fuck with it. I mean, it's actually kind of crazy that people even have royalty-free videos in the first place. Like, fuck.
world beyond the dangers of their daily lives. Since the Industrial Revolution, storytelling has moved away from that immediate, in-person, interpersonal bridge. As society has become more individualized,
Copyright.
the way we create and
I
consume
could
stories
post on
has
Twitter. I could tell the whole story on Twitter. Even though I might have to make a thread because if I didn't, then it might be a really short story. But hey, you could do a really short story. There's nothing wrong with that. People do really short stories all the time. Or I could do a thread. I could do a Tumblr. I could put it in an Instagram caption. I could put it on the photo or on the video, as I sometimes do, on Instagram. Tell a story. And other means, of course. We got books now, right? Yeah, I got hella books. I don't have one like in arm's reach, but
moved in the same direction. Look at our internet culture. Our collective attention span has shortened by micro-content mediums like TikTok and Twitter. We've
Oh,
reduced
that's so
stories
scary.
to be bite-sized clips of audio or text, forcing it to be trimmed down to its most essential form to get caught in an algorithm. The fact that you're still watching this video, however many minutes in, shows just how much you love stories. But the rest of the world, it's hard to tell.
I'm trying to.
Is storytelling dying? No, not at all. It's evolving. Because that's what humans do. We evolve. Whether short or long, first or third person, stories today still have the same purpose they did thousands of years ago. To teach us how to navigate the extraordinary circumstances of our own lives, to remind us that we are not alone in our experiences, and to connect us to a larger humanity. Sadly, there's a divide between people who use this infinite opportunity for connection to gain perspective and expand their imagination, and those who use it instead to reinforce the notion they already have.
Propaganda.
No matter how wrong-
They have an agenda. Fox News, CNN. What doesn't tell propaganda nowadays? I mean, technically, isn't everything trying to like push you towards believing something, believing their ideology, believing their agenda? Isn't everybody trying to sell you something? So they want you to think in a certain way. They want you to think that their product is necessary. They want you to think that it's a good product. So technically, if they make you believe that their product is good, technically they've influenced your thinking. So technically, everybody's gonna influence your thinking with these stories. Technically, that's kind of what they're supposed to do. They're influencing your thinking by You understand history through stories. That's all you got. Of course, other things now, but you know what I mean. And that stuff. I think that somebody's always going to be telling a story. I mean, that's modern day mythology. That's something that I've learned recently about philosophy from a philosophy podcast. Philosophize This. You already know. I always give my mans a shout out. Shouts out Stephen West. I don't know what episode it was, but he was talking about how like people think mythology is gone, and it's with the days of the old, right? Mythology used to exist 2,000 years ago. You got Zeus, Hades, whatever, Poseidon, Kronos, eating babies. You think mythology's dead? Mythology's just evolved, baby. Just like he said, stories don't die. Mythology doesn't die, it just evolves, and it changes forms into something different. What's the new mythology? TV and media. Ads. Mythology is the news that you watch every day that are gonna reinforce their worldview onto you, right? And they're gonna inform and indoctrinate your worldview so that you believe that you know everything and that you're watching, and they're gonna keep you in an echo chamber so that you don't question any of your thoughts, and that's you giving your subconscious a big fucking high five in the nutsack because your subconscious likes that, you know. It likes to take the path of least resistance. So if I don't have to question any of my worldviews, I don't have to question any of the thoughts or prejudices or biases that I hold. And if they tell me that I just have none and that I have the whole truth and nothing but the truth and that the other side are just fucking retards, well then, this seems like my kind of channel. Time to put on some Fox News every night after I come home. After sitting in a box that I don't like, coming home in a box to come watch out of a box my mythology. Just gonna
Wrong that idea is, there's always going to be a narrative that reinforces it.
Ow!
Think back to the woman I spoke about at the beginning of the video, and the savior at the end. Tales just like that were used to defend the Führer and his tyrannical regime.
What the fuck? No,
this is the danger of stories that we have to consider. While they can be used to empower, they can also be used to enrage or paralyze. We refer to this as propaganda, the power that the elites use to build and destroy nations, to scout and disempower entire populations. And this isn't just a thing of the past. The Western world tells a story of white supremacy, one that imagines Europe as the main character, with billions of people only acting as villains or helpless victims, not as complex characters with their own thoughts, beliefs, or emotions. When we're consistently told a story from a single perspective, there's little room left for us to imagine anything else.
It is kind of hard.
Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said in her 2009 TED Talk, "Show people as only one thing over and over again, and that's what they become." When
Very
narratives
true.
are left in the hands of those in power, they alone decide what people are in the eyes of the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary reality,
And what do you think has the power?
a reality
The person
that
with
the
most
world
money.
lived in until the creation of the internet.
The person with the most money, the person with the most power is the person, not with the person with the most money, actually. It's actually the scientist who's gonna tell you, who's gonna reinforce the knowledge and the linguistics that you use, right? Whoever creates the language that you use, which is then gonna be the way that you formulate any kind of opinion and thoughts, like knowledge, thoughts, and language, all combined. Whoever does that, you know, scientists and stuff like that, they're gonna reinforce the way that you go about processing everything. So before anything, that's the most fundamental thing. People with the most power are scientists, so be careful with those guys. And then maybe somewhere down the line, yeah, maybe you got the most obvious ones, people with money, president, whatever. People don't think about those scientists. They don't think about that. They don't.
Thanks to the World Wide Web, we can finally see beyond the limitations of the narratives we're told. We have the option to operate past the
Yes, but not a lot of people do. Most people just stick to the algorithm, which becomes an echo chamber.
version of reality that's imposed on us by structures of power. There's no longer a single source telling us who we are and what to become. Everyone has become their own storyteller, because we all have a story to tell. Online, Africans can tell about the beautiful creations of their ancestors that lie in European museums today. Native Americans can speak about their heritage and how it influenced the country built around them. The Maori people can share their songs and dances to the entire world. Everyone's become their own storyteller, because we all have unique stories to tell. We talk about everything from the mundane in our everyday lives to superheroes saving the world from fictional extinction. We watch documentaries and biopics. We read memoirs and autobiographies. We follow vloggers and stars of reality shows as they document every second of their day. Because we crave the experience of knowing what the world's like through the eyes of
I
other
kind of
people.
don't. I'm just saying.
Because when everything seems
That's
to be
just me.
crumbling around us, we find solace in knowing that we aren't the only ones trying to figure it out. Social media may have forced storytelling to change, but in doing so, it created an opportunity for connection and understanding in a way the world's never seen.
Yeah, it kind of gives
In less
a
than
platform
60
to people
minutes,
that may not have
You
had
can
it
watch
before.
5 films about 4 creators in 3 different continents, each with their own 2 cents about this one planet we all call home.
I like that.
And the zero sum of a story will always be just that, no matter how or when it's told.
I like that. I like that aperture. I like that. I like that. I like that. Like that shit that you pulled off there at the end. People may not have caught it. I'm kidding. Everybody caught it. And that's it, isn't it? That's it. What is this, an ad?
You can learn on the go, no matter where you are in the world. Brilliant also offers other courses like scientific thinking.
Sir, every video I've watched is just sponsored by Brilliant. Anyway, man, let me know what you guys think. Aperture. Storytelling, a double-edged sword. There you go. What did you learn? You learned something new. Maybe you didn't. Maybe I was annoying the fuck out of you. Pause it too much. Talk too much. Let me know. Whatever the fuck. I don't care. Hate is better than nothing. Not necessarily. I mean, look, if I can get hate. One thing that really stuck with me is the person that said if you got hate, you don't need a consulting firm. You just need to hire more haters. Because your haters are your consulting firm. Because then you can take that and not necessarily take it to heart, but like maybe consider it. Maybe see if there's some like actual stuff that they're actually trying to tell you, like, hey, maybe you could improve this. It was kind of bothering me a little bit, and I was like, hey, if I feel like it's not anything too crazy and it's something that I genuinely do see, and I'm like, you know, I could have honestly done that better. You know, he's got a point. He makes a good point, and I'm not gonna be somebody that's gonna be ignorant or, you know, completely just shut off from accepting the fact that somebody might make a good point hating on me. But, I mean, shit. Don't just say anything else. Fuck it. Video's too long already. Let's go. Subscribe.